All right. Trump administration drafting executive orders. They want to eliminate the Department of Education.
But that sounds like a good thing, the Department of Education.
It's a good show. Do we need the history music?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so real quick, because people are like, oh, that's good. That's a good idea. People say, oh, it's been around for a long time. All right, real quick. This would be great. So think of these little moments as like cocktail talk. So if you get into a conversation with somebody, hey, Trump's trying to get rid of the Department of Education. You say, yeah, do you know about that? And then you listen to my show, and then you're well armed. Okay. So first of all, there was really no Department of Education. Until 1976, the National Education Association, that's a teachers union, for the first time ever in history, endorsed a president of the United States, and they endorsed Carter. So Carter, in return, by the way, at the DNC that year, in 1976, 180 of the delegates were teachers. They were members of the NEA. So Carter goes in there. His polls are below 30%. Most of the Democrats didn't like the idea of a Department of Education. They said, we don't really need to do this, but they didn't want to embarrass the president. This is something he had promised. So lo and behold, they decide they're going to do the Department of Education. So they put it in place, and people are like, okay, well, there it is. So they got about, I don't know, $240 billion of what they spend, and they're supposed to oversee education, even though there's nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in the U.S. Constitution gives the federal government any power to be involved in education. For a brief time, you don't need to know this for the cocktail party, but Andrew Johnson had it sort of the Department of Education, something like that, for about 2 years. Here's the most important part of the story. You ready? It happened in 1957. This is what really started America saying, we need to educate.
10 years from now, Russia will be way ahead of us.
Said Senator Johnson, soon the Russians will be dropping bombs on us from space, like kids dropping rocks onto cars from freeway overpasses.
It's frightening. We should find out what they're doing that we're not doing, and we should do something about it very quickly.
It gets the American people alarmed that a foreign country, especially an enemy country, can do this. We fear this. We fear that they have something out that majority of the people don't know about.
This is the age of the rocket, which travels out, the satellite, which surrounds all of us, and the missile, which could destroy us. In the competition for leadership in space, in the race run by rockets, where is the finish line? Do we end up in a nuclear war, or do we try to live with the constant fear of one?
Sputnik is the thing that freaked everybody out. So then LBJ said, wow, we better do something. So in the mid-'60s, he decided the Elementary and Secondary Education Act would need to be done because we need to better educate Americans when it comes to science and engineering. So they decided they're going to put this thing in place. They're going to start to fund it. Here we go. And they're going to fund poor students, poor kids. They're going to give them money. It had little or no effect upon any of the grades, but that was sort of the beginning of opening the door for this whole thing. And then off you go. They make it a Department of Education under Carter in 1979, 78. Reagan tries to get rid of it. He reduces a little bit, but doesn't really have any great success. It continues to grow and grow and grow. And then you have Bush get in there with No Child Left Behind, which was a big failure. And then they did this. They had uniform standards of how they're going to teach. In 2013 to 2014, schools were punished if they didn't have certain groups meeting certain, progress steps.
What do you mean punished? Like funding withheld?
Yeah, funding, yeah. Okay. Obama had about $4 billion for schools that would adapt the policy. So they use that as like a carrot. Hey, do this and do that, you'll get some more money. Then in 2015, they had the Every Student Succeeds Act, which turned out to be a total failure. Not every student succeeded. And it was just more bureaucracy, more money dangled, but less money going to the actual cities and to the towns. It was just money that was being, held up there in Washington. So what Trump's going to do, he wants to shrink the agency. He's going to pressure Congress to eliminate it altogether. And then the Department of Education, which also controls student loans, about $1.6 trillion. But he just wants to get rid of the department altogether, take that money, and push it back out to the states. So that's the idea of it. And, good luck. Hopefully he's able to get rid of it. And if he can say, listen, rather than giving the $241 billion to a bunch of 4,000 bureaucrats in Washington, why don't we not spend that money there? We'll transfer the money somewhere else. We'll have better effects upon kids and grades and schools. So that's his idea. He just wants to get rid of it.
Is this another waving a big stick thing where he's gonna say he's gonna get rid of it and then it will come back to
he
just
can
reduce?
shrink some of the spending, but to get rid of the department entirely, he needs Congress to get on board. And in that, he could negotiate with Congress, say, look, if we get rid of this department and we fire those people, and you guys could take that money back to your states, and then you could have it be more effective on the ground. You could have it there as opposed here in Washington. He could probably get that through. I'm sure most Democrats that are bought and sold by the teachers union will vote against it, but he still has enough votes in the House. If he could do the same thing in the Senate, where he has the advantage there, he could get this thing to go through and Congress could get rid of the Department of Education, which would be fine, dandy with me.